Hello, watchers and listeners. Welcome to another edition of the Prepper Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Robert from Suburban Preppers. How are you doing, Robert?
Hello, Mike. Yeah, I'm good, thanks. You well?
Excellent. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. It's good to have you on. I know we've been trying to do this for a couple of weeks and just trying to sync our schedules up. So
We have
it's
indeed, yes.
it's good to get you on the channel. So we'll
Thank you for
start
having
with
me.
we'll start with all the basic stuff.
Yeah,
And the first question I always ask, which always sounds stupid to some people, is, are you a prepper?
I am indeed.
Yeah, you couldn't be called Suburban Preppers and say I'm not a prepper, right? So, what's your definition of that? Like, because some people are survivalists, some people are preppers, some people are just like generally prepared. What's your version? When I say the word prepper to you, what makes you think?
So for our household, I'm trying to think. Sorry, being put on the spot. Yeah, like so, we just try to cover bases for anything that might happen.
Yeah.
Whether it be shortage of funds one month where we can't afford to
Hmm.
go and spend as much as we normally do on our food shop or whatever, or
Yeah.
a car breakdown or something. We're just try to
Mm.
cover our bases on that.
So,
We're not
so what?
like
Sorry, go on.
we're not so much like doomsday type preppers as such, but obviously, if anything like that happened, it's good that we're going to have a head start over most normal people.
Yeah, definitely. What started you prepping then? Because that usually is a telltale sign of how people are prepping. What made you start doing it?
I don't know. We've been doing it for around about 10 years or so.
Hmm.
Like I say, I've gone through peaks and troughs with my income. I've been in my job a long time, but I've also always done like side jobs as well. And sometimes money's been coming quite easy, and sometimes we've had to stretch the penny here and there. So
Yeah.
we started just when we've got extra money, well, we'll buy a few extra bits. So the next time money's tight, we can kind of cover ourselves for that. And it
Hmm.
kind of just progressed from there. Like, oh, well, what happens if money was tight for longer than a week or a fortnight or whatever, and then obviously COVID happened as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Always a boost to kind of give you that reality check, something like that. So for yourself, is it purely just a financial standpoint, or are you prepping anything in particular? Obviously, when I speak to people and people who've seen the channel know that when I initially started prepping, it was for like a Carrington event, like a grid down situation. Is there anything like that that's in your focus, or is it purely from a financial standpoint?
if I'm honest, there's so many things going on in the world right now. I don't think you'd be able to cover all of the bases. So we're just kind of
Yeah.
we're just doing the best we can for a multiple of situations. Whether it's a localized power cut or whether it's a current event, like I say, we're just
Hmm.
uh, trying to make it so we can get through the best we can, regardless.
Yeah, yeah. So would you say it's quite general? You've not got a particular focus, or well, I say focus. Something that you think's more likely to happen, like
No,
the
like I say,
doomsday
I
side of
think,
things.
in my opinion, and obviously who knows what the future holds, but I think it'll be more short-term events rather than something major.
Hmm.
But like I say, who knows? So
Interesting, yeah, because we had Dan on the podcast once from Start Prepping,
mhm.
and he has a similar sort of thing where it's not a case of one big event and it's all happening. It's like slowly things deteriorating, called the crumblies, like the infrastructure starting to break down and logistics starting to break down,
Yeah.
and that kind of gradual thing. It's an interesting perspective to come from there. um I mean, I've obviously looked at your channel and stuff, but for you, when it comes to any sort of scenario, are you bug in, are you bug out, or is it
Yeah.
varied?
Again, for us in the UK, where are we going to run to? You know, So
Steve's boat. I've Steve's boat.
like I said, we've got nowhere to run to. We can't head for the hills because we're maybe it's not packed to the rafters, but there's certainly a lot of people already possibly in the hills already. So I've not got an off-grid property somewhere that's fully stocked waiting. So I'll stay at home as much.
But you would say that.
I tell you what, like if I did, I'd probably be there, all the time, just as a man cave more than anything else.
Yeah, but I mean, there's always case scenarios. Do you have like a bug out bag in case you have to leave the home, things like that?
So it's not a bag as such ready to bug out. I mean, we store our stuff in storage boxes, so we can kind of grab them and chuck them into. We've got a transit van that we converted into a camper van, but it was kind of, I don't know how to phrase it. We've done it for two reasons. Obviously, one, to enjoy a camper van, but then also if we needed it, like I say, we could fit all of our immediate family in it. It's got beds, it's got off-grid power, it's got a small chemical toilet in it. We can cook in there. So we've got that.
Yeah, so you've got the really practical bug out vehicle if you should need it. The question is, where do you park without running into 10 other people, right?
Well, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think bugging in would be the most realistic situation for most events. Obviously, if it was a localized event like flooding or whatever, and we had to leave, then of course we'd leave, for our safety. But
yeah, I think half of prepping is being adaptable, right, to all them different situations you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you put much stock in that? Do you put much plans together, or is it going a case of you'll react to what happens, or do you have plans in place? If this happens, we will A, B, and C.
No, not really. We don't have any definite plans because, like I say, I work where sometimes I can be hundreds of miles away from home. Our children, obviously, one of them's an adult child now. She lives separately from us. Our other son, he'll be at school. My wife may be at work. So our plan is to try and get home, and then we'll see how it goes from there. If it's safe.
Interesting. So do you put a lot of stock in that get home plan? And you said you're hundreds of miles away. I know recently I've done a walk for 90 miles, and that was kind of based on me having to get home from my workplace. What kind of thoughts have you put into that get home plan if you're that kind of distance away?
So I carry a little kit in my bag at all times. For my job, I've got to carry a work-related kit. It's in a backpack. It's in a large backpack. But I can't carry too much of anything else because the bag's already full with work kit. So I've crammed in as much as I can into like a water bottle, like an Algene type bottle, with like I say, as much practical stuff as I can, and then I'm hoping that I'll be able to scavenge stuff from the workplace if I had to, But I've got things like water filters and whatnot. The foil blankets, things like that, So
have you put any sort of to the test? Have you tried to get home over a distance or anything like that?
I've not, if I'm honest. I have not. Just time, unfortunately,
I get that. Family life and working life. It's not always the best opportunity, but So have you? It's curious though. Is your family on board with the prepping side of things?
They are now, yes. So my wife thought I was a bit paranoid and a bit silly, perhaps. And then, like I say, in COVID, she was getting very close to not being able to wipe her backside on anything. And she thought, well, actually, it might be a good idea to have things after all, So,
So did that bring her right into the fold? Is she fully on board, or did she just tolerate it now?
No, she's fully on board. It was her idea to start up our YouTube channel on it, So
excellent. That's properly on board. So as a prepper, are you a lone wolf, or do you have some sort of mag, or is there a plan to get some sort of group together if it came to a SHTF situation?
So we've not really got a group as such. I've not broadcast around the local area that we are preppers. I mean, obviously I've got a YouTube channel where I show my face. I don't hide it or anything. But at the same time, I think people who are going for the lone wolf thing are perhaps a bit disillusioned. As humans, we're social creatures, and if you've got a horde outside your door and there's only 2 or 3 of you inside, how are you going to keep them at bay? Whereas at least if there's a group of a dozen or a couple of dozen or whatever, you strengthen numbers basically.
Yeah, often people struggle to do that. Like you say, it's hard to. You don't want to just broadcast. Look, I've got all this stuff
Well,
because
yeah,
you might trigger some desperate people in your area. Should something happen.
mm.
So, I mean, have you took any steps to go towards building that kind of community or getting a few people on board?
I've dropped a few hints to close friends who I think I can trust, and especially using COVID as an example, because I assume it was the same everywhere. We went to our supermarket and literally the shelves were bare. And, I've dropped hints like, wouldn't it be good, to have a few bits extra just in case anything like that ever happened again? It's still relatively fresh in people's memories. So, but I've not said, would you like to form a group and should we do this and whatnot,
Yeah, just baby steps at the moment, just try
Yeah,
and test the water,
yeah.
as it were. Yeah. So what's your prepper goals and targets? I mean, I like to think that every prepper at some point would love to own a farm and grow their own food and be fully self-sufficient. But where do you see your prepping going?
Well, it's funny you should mention that. That is actually our goal.
Okay.
But not UK based. So we hope to be able to move over to either Spain or Portugal in the rural areas.
Okay.
So we own 2 properties now, myself and my partner. We separated a few years ago. So I've got a house, my partner has a flat. Obviously, we got back together. We've still got the 2 properties. So we're hoping once the mortgages are cleared, our daughter lives in the flat. So obviously, she's there at the moment. But once the mortgages are cleared, we're hoping we can release the equity from the flat to buy a property abroad. And then when the time is right, go and not come back, basically, But
start to look at self-sufficiency over there then.
well, I've said some of the must-haves for the property is enough land to grow fruit and vegetables, to be able to put off-grid solar, completely off-grid, not grid tied or anything like that. Somewhere which either has a water source or we're able to get a pond or something put in. So so I've got those in mind already. And the properties do exist. It's just we don't yet have the funds to be able to get them. But
have you got any experience with anything like that, like growing your own food and things like that? Is it or is it going to be a whole new adventure for you?
No. So I used to have an allotment for many years. And even before I had an allotment, I've always had a greenhouse for most of my adult life in the garden, just grown tomatoes, peppers, and things like that initially to start with. And then I moved on to like onions, potatoes, sweet corns, things like that. But I've always had work dragging me away from being able to do it. Whereas at least if I was able to be there all of the time, I could really put the effort into really growing a lot of stuff.
Yeah. How practical is it though? Because allotments in this country and gardens in this country are quite small, right? And to yield enough to completely be self-sufficient, you surely need a lot more land for something like that.
I don't know how much you'd need, and to be honest, I don't know if you could ever really be truly self-sufficient in this day and age. I think we're too reliant on supermarkets and that now. I think it's kind of ingrained in us. I don't know if we'd ever get away from it completely. Just being brutally honest, but even if we were able to grow 50-60% of what we eat, that would be a great start.
Yeah, it's definitely going to help the cost of living and stuff like that in this day and age, right?
Yeah, and I mean, like things like potatoes, they're really easy to grow, and you get a massive crop and lots of calories in them, for very little effort.
Yeah. It's interesting. I've always wanted an allotment, but near where I am, it's like a 50-year waiting list, and somebody's got to die for you to get one.
Yeah. So it was pretty much like that around here, and the only reason I got one is I hassled the lady from the council who was in charge of the waiting list every week or fortnight or whatever. I was either emailing or calling and is there anything yet? Have we moved up yet? But even then I was on the waiting list for I would say maybe it's 8 or 9 years.
Wow,
So
that's a lot of emails that you
yeah,
hassled that
honestly,
woman
like
with. Then.
literally, you have to be on them all the time. But it
Yeah,
was something that I really wanted, so I just chased
yeah.
it and chased it and chased it, and eventually I got given one. I think she probably just got sick of me. Yeah, have one.
And how successful were you at growing your own food on the
Yeah,
allotment size pitch?
we grew loads. Yeah, it was just circumstances meant I had to give it up, but I was
Mhm.
devastated when I had to give it up. Like I say, I grew all of our stuff in raised beds rather than in the ground, and we had, like I say, potatoes, peas, carrots, onions, sweet
Is
corn.
is there, for people that are not experienced, is there a reason for that? A choice between raised beds and in the ground?
For myself, it was easier.
Yeah.
It saved digging the ground over, if I'm honest.
Is it just
So
less labor? Just less labor? Is it
yeah,
more
to get
practical? Yeah.
started, I was keen to get going, so it was easier to build some frames out of timber and import the soil. I was able to get literal tons of soil for very cheap, so it was
Mhm.
easier just to bring it in
Yeah.
rather than digging the ground over and weeding it all. I just put layers of cardboard on the bottom, dumped loads of soil and compost on, and then got grown straight away.
Yeah. Cool. I mean, so what's your? I'd love to explore the move a little bit more, because I mean that's a hell of a plan. I'd love to emigrate one day. As a prepper, how practical is that? Is it going to be a case of having to get rid of everything and restart prepping once you're over there?
Um, Probably getting rid of a lot of stuff, yeah, but not everything. I mean, it's like everything you can put in the back of a lorry and send it over.
Hmm.
Right now, there's even like companies who'll come and pack your house up for you and move you over there. There's something that the Portuguese government are doing where they're trying to encourage people to emigrate there. And like I say, they'll come and pack your house up and take it over there, and there isn't any import fees or anything like that. But
Oh,
things
cool.
like tins of food and whatnot, it may well be cheaper to dispose of them here and buy them over there. When they take up the lorry space and whatnot.
Yeah, just transportation wise and
Yeah,
weight and
yeah,
stuff
it
like that.
wouldn't make financial sense really to transport them thousands of miles.
That's really interesting. So is it quite easy then to make this kind of move over there if the government over there is encouraging it? Is there not loads of red tape to jump through? I mean, I've looked at emigration to the United States and it feels like I'm going to need a lawyer just to fill in the paperwork. So
Yeah, so I mean, it's a lot more difficult now after Brexit, but it's still possible. You obviously just need to have the funds behind you. So
Mhm.
some of our friends, they aren't preppers, but they've moved over to Portugal recently, and they are having a nightmare because they're kind of borderline with the funds. So they've had to deposit their savings into a Portuguese bank account to have it drip fed back to them to show that they've got a steady income. Um,
Right.
so, like I say, it is more difficult pre Brexit. You moved there and that was it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but it is what it is. It's
It's cool. It's a very cool plan. I like it. Let's go on to your channel. And your channel is here across the bottom of the screen,
yeah,
at Suburban Preppers. Now, interestingly enough, you said it was the missus's idea to start the channel.
it was, yeah, yeah.
How did that conversation go from somebody who wasn't initially a prepper?
So I mentioned we have our van that we converted into a camper van. We also have a YouTube channel for that, and
Okay.
we were just talking about like what else we could do if we could kind of start up another channel. It's not a very big channel. I mean, it's probably about double the size subscriber count as what we've got on the prepper channel. But then she said, "Well, why don't we do one for the prepping channel?" And it just kind
Hmm.
of evolved from there.
Yeah. Yeah. And what do you think? Because often people associate, I mean, I get it all the time. How can you be a prepper and put your face on YouTube, right? OPSEC and all of that. How do you respond to that?
I don't know. It, People will find out who you are regardless one way or another. You can hide your face or whatever, but all it takes is a computer nerd to find out your IP address and find out your Facebook or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So why go to the effort of hiding it if someone determined could find it anyway?
So why have you put yourself out there on a channel anyway? What was your goal from it? Is it to help other people prep? Is it what motivated it?
Yeah, to try and inspire other people. Obviously to document our journey as well, and try and kind of build like a little community, such as we're talking now. If we'd never started the channel, we'd never have looked for your channel and spoke to you and whatnot. So
it's a good network, and I think it's a bit more personal, right, than just going on a forum and finding some random username. You get to talk to people, right? It's a bit more trusting.
Yeah, you build up a relationship with that person rather than, as you say, a username on a forum.
Yeah, which could be anybody.
Yeah.
So your channel's 219 subs at the moment, 40 videos on there. So, I mean, it's a great start. Your channel's recently passed 10,000 views altogether on the channel, so which is a great achievement. Hopefully, we'll get you up much higher than 219 with this interview. But give me the elevator pitch. What's your channel? Who's it for? What's it about? And what's the direction it's going?
So anyone who is interested in prepping but hasn't quite took the plunge, whoever lives in a built-up area, we don't all have the off-grid farms or whatnot. Most of us live in either terraced or semi-detached houses or whatever in a built-up area with neighbors around everywhere where you can't swing a cat, basically. And to show that you can still do it,
Yeah,
you can do it.
Cool. I looked at your I've been looking at some of your videos and stuff, and you've got the bug out vehicle actually on there, the details about that on there as well, haven't you? That's quite a popular video on there.
Yeah, and especially when we made it into a short as well, that really took off. But
how random is that though? You can't predict it, can you? You just make something and all of a sudden it goes.
I know. Yeah. I mean, when I say it took off by our standards. Other people go, that's nothing, But for us, we were over the moon,
Yeah.
So
it's good to kind of reach that many people, and especially if they interact as well. What challenges have you found with it? Have you struggled with anything side of the YouTube things?
We got our first troll.
All right. Okay. How did that go?
So it was the other day, actually. We just started getting off the same person, just loads of Aussie comments, and
like, you don't want to do it like that. You want to do it like this.
And then he made a sexualized comment about my wife. So I thought, right, well, we'll block you now.
Wow.
Yeah. So
sat in his basement with no idea. Yeah, that's a key sign to know you're on the way.
We've got a hater.
When you attract the trolls. I don't even block them anymore. I interact with them. And after I've interacted a few times, I just say, thanks for keep coming back to the video. You've just added an extra 3 views.
Well, yeah, exactly. So I love the fact that YouTube have got the hide this user from channel, because they don't know that they're blocked. Nobody else can see them, but then they still keep coming on and giving you more views and whatnot, and helping you in the algorithm, don't they? So
and ranting to themselves in the comments, so they don't even realize it. I love it. I really do. So I mean, it's great meeting you. It'd be really interesting to see the direction. Is the channel going to come with you when you move abroad? Are you going to document that whole transition?
We'd like to, yeah, but like I say, we're probably looking maybe it's 10 years down the line. So who knows what will happen?
Well, you'll have 1 million subscribers already by then, so it won't be an issue.
We'll be able to have a bunker and everything like our Canadian friend.
If we're all still here, because he does kill us on a daily basis.
Well, so. yes. But if it's still going, and as you say, we're all still here, nothing major's happened, then I'd like to do that. So
what's your next video? What next video is planned for the channel?
So the one that is due to come out Friday next week is using a bucket to make a water filter.
Okay.
So to filter water from ponds and streams and whatnot, using a cheap filter off eBay and off Amazon rather, and then just regular buckets from B&Q. Do you know the orange buckets? I've got them here actually. They're just next to me.
There you go. There you go.
So, but yeah, that's the one that's coming out next week.
Much cheaper than a 200 quid Berkfield, I assume.
yeah. I mean, we've got one of them as well, but we use that for our daily water needs. Yeah. So, but because I don't know what it's like where you live, but our tap water just tastes more and more like you're drinking bleach. So we filter it all now.
Yeah, I'm in the Northwest, and Northwest water used to have a really good reputation, but I've noticed the standard dropping a lot, to be fair. So we've started filtering a lot now. So interesting. They're slowly poisoning us through the. Let's get our conspiracy hats off.
Well, look how many conspiracies have come true.
Well, this is it. It's only a conspiracy while it's fictional. So
yeah.
It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here. Guys, if you get a chance, please go over to Suburban Preppers, give them a sub, give them some support on their channel. Be interesting to follow that journey along. And although 10 years seems like a long time, blink and it'll be gone, but you'll get to see the progress of how they go through that journey as well. Would you like to say anything more, Robert, while you have the audience?
Yeah, just like I say, while we are Suburban Preppers, plural, it'll mostly be myself now because my wife Laura, she's changed jobs recently. She doesn't have very much time, but she will make appearances every now and again, and obviously she's more pleasing on the eye. So I'm sure people will appreciate seeing her more than myself, you know. So I'm sorry for everyone who has to put up looking at me.
Oh, don't put yourself down. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks for having us, Mike.
No, appreciate you coming on board, and we'll catch up again soon, I'm sure, and maybe get you on a fireside chat as well with some other preppers. That'd be great.
We'll see if we can organize that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Excellent. Right, everyone else, thank you for joining us. Thank you for tuning in, and don't forget to go and hit up Suburban Preppers. The link will be in the description, and we'll see you next time on a Prepper podcast or a fireside or a random video or whatever we decide to do. So, goodbye.
Bye. Thanks.
Yeah.